Hi guys, I'm Davino Guerra. I'm a real estate agent and investor in the LA area. And today we're gonna talk about buying land in the desert. My honest opinion, terrible idea. Don't do it. I tell all my buyers not to do it. Some of them persist with the idea. So I actually found this video on YouTube that I wanna give my opinion on, just so you guys understand why buying land in the desert is a bad idea. Just buy a house, remodel it, Airbnb it. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. So if you're not a developer, you should not be buying land in the desert. I don't think it's a good idea. But anyways, let's go through this video so you guys understand why you shouldn't do it. This guy's name is Daniel Inskeep. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Seems to be a YouTuber. So he wanted to buy a property in the desert. He started with Palm Springs. Unfortunately, Palm Springs is a little expensive, and then on top of it, he was actually smart on making the decision to go to the high desert instead, which is Joshua Tree area, because Palm Springs, you have a rule where you can have a maximum of 36 bookings a year, meaning you have to do a lot of 5 to 10 nights minimums. Consequently, you're not gonna be booked all the time, so you're gonna have to hire a property manager, which is pretty expensive in Palm Springs, to be able to get yourself booked throughout the whole year, because they understand how to use the calendar within those 36 bookings. Anyways, it's a little complicated, so he made a good decision going to Joshua Tree. Where he made a bad decision is he decided, okay, Joshua Tree is pretty profitable, that's great, right? It's close to their primary residence, great idea. So they looked at some houses.
Our eye on a 3-bed, 5-bath property on 2.5 acres, and also had an ADU, or an accessory dwelling unit, on the property, which would be perfect for the type of rental we wanted. It was less than 20 minutes from the park and listed for about $300,000. But it was pretty outdated, and for it to be a competitive vacation rental, we estimated it would need at least $150,000 to $200,000 just in renovation.
So they looked at some houses, right? And at the time, this big house with an ADU was costing about $300,000. Honestly, if you look at it today, smoking deal, right? They decided not to buy it because he needs work. It's gonna need like $150,000 worth of work. So what I would have done is buy the house, fix it up a little bit, buy some nice furniture, put it on Airbnb, make a little bit of money, reinvest into the house, make the house look cooler up until the point where you're, okay, I'm fully done and now it's making bank, right? That's what I would have done. But they thought that the cost of the renovation was too high. You don't have to do it all at once, right?
The home was 1,100 square feet, and we really wanted a larger home to accommodate larger groups of people. We ultimately made the decision to hire an architect to draft plans that would give us everything we were looking for in a property. After some mild Googling and emailing, we met with one firm that really seemed to understand what we were after. Kodo focuses on sustainable designs inspired by Scandinavian and Japanese design. Even though they are based in the UK, they partnered with a Southern California company called Plant Prefab to bring their designs to America. So for us, it seemed like the perfect fit. We started by sending them our wish list for a build. We weren't sure how much everything would end up costing, so we just started with our ideal scenario. A 3-bed, 2-bath main house with lots of windows, accordion doors, an open kitchen, etc. Then we wanted a 1-bed, 1-bath casita or guest house. And then a finished garage that could be used as a flex space and potentially have a Murphy bed to accommodate more guests. And finally, a courtyard with a wading pool, built-in seating, fire pit, and an outdoor shower. That all sounds like a lot, but this would make it a highly sought-after vacation rental. And we also sent them a few photos just so they could picture what we were talking about. They got to work. Throughout the entirety of this process, one of the most challenging aspects was finding a lender who would give us a loan that would work for this project. New construction adds an additional layer to the standard mortgage process, but also the fact that it wasn't going to be our primary residence was also an issue. I called and emailed just about anyone I thought might be able to help us out, and when I found people that supposedly could help us, just getting them to call me back was virtually impossible because most lenders at this time were slammed with everyone taking advantage of the low interest rates by refinancing.
He then decides to go and buy land to develop it, right? It's like a very dreamy idea, but not a good idea in the desert. Tell you why. Contractors, very unreliable over there. They don't show up. They overcharge because there aren't a lot of them that work over there. The ones that work outside of the desert do not want to drive over there. So if they do agree with you to drive over there, they're going to complain all the time that they're driving over there. Sometimes they're not going to show up. So the whole process alone is already like super challenging. That would make me give up. So that's already hard. And then he started looking for lenders to help him with a loan to develop the land. First of all, there are almost none existing in terms of lenders that will lend you money to develop a land, right? Later on in the video, you will see just like the only way to do it is if you're doing a prefab home is to finance it directly with the developer, right? And then depending on the prefab home, there are very few lenders that would lend that kind of money, like $600,000-700,000 on a property, and the interest rate is not going to be pretty. It's going to be terrible, right? Because it's not ideal. He also mentioned that it was hard to find a lender because at the time it was during the pandemic boom and all that stuff. Everybody was refinancing their homes because the interest rates were low and all that stuff. That's not the reason. It's just that as a lender or realtor, when you receive a call from someone like trying to accomplish something like that and you're experienced enough, you already know it's not possible. You do not want to, you try to convince people not to do it, but if they still want to do it, you do not want to spend your time helping them try to achieve something that's not possible, right? So that's probably another reason why he wasn't hearing back from these lenders. I mean, one of the main reasons, I would say. Now let's go on with the video.
All right, here we are. Let's take a look. Meanwhile, a few weeks later, the architects sent us their design. I love the angles.
Oh my gosh, they moved the pool.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, it looks like it's bigger. We then gave some feedback for potential changes and talked through different ideas.
The realtor that they worked with should have helped them out with this. So when you decide to go for a prefab or manufactured homes, there's very big negatives about it. This looks pretty and all. You would make a ton of money on Airbnb, but let's just say this house, they bought it for $650,000, put it in a land of 10 acres. 5 years later, they want to refinance or get an equity line out of this property to buy something else or invest in their business, or they need the money, whatever, right? Let's just say they need money. Whenever they go and try to do that, first of all, no lenders will refinance a prefab home. Like most lenders do not lend on prefabs or manufactured homes. Sometimes there's some of them that they're just like single families, they're attached to a foundation and it's still a problem, right? Those reasons alone would mean property's not gonna appreciate as much, you're not gonna have as much access to the equity. Not a good idea in my opinion, but I guess they weren't told, right? You wouldn't be zoned as a single family, but a manufactured home, and that's huge in lending. When they see that, they're like, don't wanna land on it.
Thanks for you guys. So we'll send that over to you. Just check you're all happy with it.
Terrific. Thanks for humoring us with all of our requests, Theo. We really appreciate it. You're doing a great job. Now, you can often wrap the cost of land in with a new construction loan, but the lenders advised me it's simpler if we already own the land outright. Now, around this time, I took $8,000 in my Robinhood account to over $40,000 by buying puts when the market was crashing. I withdrew this $40K to my bank before I could give it back to the market. Between the time differences, the world shutting down, and just juggling other projects, it took several months to get our plans complete, but it was worth the wait. We then looped in the builder, Plant Prefab, into our project. Prefabricated homes are where the bulk of the home is built in a factory and then shipped on site. The quality of these homes have drastically improved over the years, so this is a legitimate way to cut some costs and time from a traditional build. Plant Prefab was one of the few we found that would build custom plans. Most prefab companies have their own set of floor plans that they make for efficiency and cost reasons. So by the end of May, we had preliminary pricing from the builder. This build would cost about $666,000.
Again, prefab homes, manufactured homes, it may look like ideal to you. It may look like, hey, it's cheaper. I can make this happen. This is gonna be cool. Like, I'll figure it out. Not a good financial investment, right? Not a good financial investment. Lenders can lend on it, hard to refinance, hard to get a loan on it, meaning it's not gonna appreciate as much as a single family. Single family built in the 1800s, 1895, 1880, is worth more than a prefab home built all high-end today, just so you have an idea.
This build would cost about $666,000, but that doesn't include any site work like pouring the foundation, hooking up utilities, and a handful of other things.
His quote for $660,000 didn't even include hooking up the utilities and attaching the property to a foundation. That's a huge cost that he's not factoring in. I'm pretty sure he knew of it, but you should still like pop an idea in your head like, get out of this. It's not a good idea, right?
Look at some lots. We want at least 5 acres. We want there to be utilities on the lot or at the property line nearby. And we also want it to be close to the park entrance. So we have a little bit of criteria, and we're going to try to find one lot that matches all of those things. On to the next one. It's just so hilly. We got really nice boulder stacks. Kind of feels like your own little park. I like that boulder stack right there is really cool. Yeah, it's good views, like panoramic. Yeah, that's a nice valley view right there. It's really nice.
I like it.
Like it?
Yeah.
Well, I think we found the property that we're going to buy today, hopefully. We met up with a real estate agent and showed us a couple of listings that he had that are off market. And one especially appealed to us was 10 acres, tons of Joshua trees on the property, and utilities were nearby. So as long as we can find the price that works for both parties, we may be in business.
He mentioned that the utilities were nearby. That's not a red alert, meaning he's gonna have to spend money to bring electricity to his property. Let's just say there's an electric pole over here and he has to bring another 5 over here. That could be another $50,000 to $100,000 just to get electricity to your property. There was probably water there. Most lands in Joshua Tree, at least like today, so I would imagine even back then, will have water in there, so that wouldn't be a problem, but electricity alone will cost him a lot of money. Another red alert there is he mentioned there's a lot of Joshua trees on the lot. I don't know if back then they had passed a law already, but there is a law that got passed recently. You cannot build within about 6 to 10 feet near a Joshua tree, meaning if you have a ton of Joshua trees and that's where you want to build the house because it has like a better view, you can't do it. Houses that were already built like right next to a Joshua tree back in the day, those are grandfathered in, but new houses today, they have to abide by the codes today, meaning he wouldn't have that many choices where to put his house, right? So that's another like red alert right there that he was probably not told.
Okay, so the land that we want to buy is how much?
70,000.
70,000. We're gonna offer them 40, and we don't know what they're gonna say. Yeah, so maybe we'll get some land. Maybe we'll get
Cross your fingers.
some people mad at us.
They did make a counter offer, okay? And you're not all that far apart. They made a counter offer at 50,000.
You know, the 50 is our absolute top, so I think we'd be glad to accept that offer. Looks like we just bought some property.
Yeah.
Cool, I didn't expect that to happen.
I know, me either.
So we ended up with a beautiful 10-acre lot, 12 minutes into town and 22 minutes to the park entrance. Utilities were at the property line, it had views of the mountains, so it was pretty perfect. And then I finally talked to a lender who had a loan for a new construction investment property. Finally. We had our plans, we had our prefab builder, we just needed a contractor to handle the site work. But this was spring 2020, and a few weeks after we found the lender, he told me they were pausing that loan product due to the uncertainties of COVID. So yet again, we were without a loan.
As you guys can see, they ended up buying the land, which for me, it was a mistake. But, you know, luckily for them, COVID was a blessing. It seems like it did not allow them to get to the point where they actually paid for all of that, and only to find out that later on you can refinance. It's not gonna appreciate as much. And on top of it, it was gonna be a nightmare to build something. I built something in 2021, right after COVID. I mean, I remodeled my house, and I almost lost my mind. So I can only imagine doing that in the desert. It would be 10 times worse. That's without exaggeration. So
the more we thought about the next few years of our lives, the more we considered the option of putting our plans on hold and instead making our first home purchase a place where we'd actually settle down.
they ended up buying a house somewhere else, which is great, right? Don't develop that land, which is a terrible idea. So I'm happy for them. It seems like life took them in the right direction.
This isn't it though. We've been remodeling it from across the country and have actually never stepped foot in it, but that's a story for another time. And then a week ago, we made the bittersweet decision to list the lot that we bought in Joshua Tree. With the expenses of buying a new home and renovating it and living elsewhere while it has been under construction, we just thought we'd rather have cash on hand if needed. Plus, this real estate market seems very bubbly and macroeconomic factors make the future look a bit concerning. We listed our lot for $115,000 and within 4 days got it under contract for $100,000. It is pretty cool to think that my $8,000 in the stock market plus about $10K from our savings turned into a $100,000 piece of land.
I'm happy for them. They were able to sell the land. They bought it for $40,000. They were able to sell it for $100,000 2 years later. They made a profit, so that's great. I'm super happy for them. He was mentioning that the real estate market was a little bit bubbly. That's why he decided to sell. I wouldn't agree with that. Had he bought a house, he would be profiting on Airbnb right now. His equity would have been through the roof. So I just disagree over there. And even if, like, you know, the market were to soften, he would still be making his money on Airbnb. It wouldn't matter, instead of dealing with all this prefab stuff. So anyways, if anything, this video is a lesson for you. Do not buy land. If you're not a developer, you should be buying a house. If you want a project, buy a house that needs work, remodel it. You're not gonna want a project again unless you're made for it, right? Like, even me, like, I'm in this industry, I love the whole process, but at the same time, it almost kills me. So sometimes, like, people are like, oh, should I buy a fixer? You know, am I gonna get like more equity out of it? Can add value to it? It's like, no, just buy what do you feel like? Like, do you want to do work? No. Then just buy something that looks good, add value to it, like later on if you can, like by building another unit, or buy something that already has a unit in there, 2 units, live in one, Airbnb the other, and you're golden. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a really good lesson on what not to do in real estate. Sometimes the easy way is the hardest way, so try not to take that. I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. I'm gonna bring down more information just like this so you guys are making well-educated moves out there when it comes to real estate. See you soon.